Good afternoon, welcome back to another Coastie Explores from here in Hong Kong. Now it's a bit overcast today, but that means it's a little cooler in the summer here, and it means we can have a little meander around the local streets. Now we are at the Central and Western District Promenade here, and we're at the western end of it, sort of in a Sai Ying Pun meets Kennedy Town sort of way. And today we are going to be walking down one of the oldest streets here in Hong Kong. It's called Queen's Road West, named after Queen Victoria. And for this, we need to go through the streets because we're on reclaimed land at the moment, so this can't be the original road. So let's go through the streets and start our historical journey. Okay, so we've made it to the start of Queen's Road West. Now, very important, there are three Queen's Road: Queen's Road West, Queen's Road Central, and Queen's Road East. So when Britain forcibly took Hong Kong in 1841, they started to use the old tracks and paths of pre-British Hong Kong here to turn into roads. And it was the road up here, Queen's Road West, that they built 50 meters wide and goes all the way from here in the west to Happy Valley in the east. Now behind me you see Kennedy Town swimming pool. We're on the edge of Kennedy Town and Shek Tong Tsui. Kennedy Town named after the 7th governor, Sir Arthur Kennedy, an Irishman who was one of many Irishmen. In fact, there were 26 continuous years of Irish governors here in Hong Kong. We're not going to do Kennedy Town today, but parts of Kennedy Town may crop up. Our first port of call is right behind, at the start here, on the corner of Belchure Street for an old slaughterhouse. Let's go. Okay, so this is Belchure Street. Now Belchure Street goes all the way down and eventually joins Victoria Road, also named after Queen Victoria. Now Belcher's Bay, named after Sir Edward Belcher. He was a captain on board HMS Sulphur back in 1841 that surveyed this part of Hong Kong. Right across from me here was one of the first slaughterhouses in Hong Kong. You can see it here on the map from 1889, clearly marked on the corner. Now slaughterhouses were all over Hong Kong, but the very first ones were here on the western side of Hong Kong Island. That was because it was well away from the city, and the smell that would come off these slaughterhouses was, let's say, very putrid and stinky. So let's work our way up, further up, Queen's Road West. Let's go. Okay, next up is Wu Hop Street. Now Wu Hop Street was home to the Kam Ling Theatre, opened in 1951 and could house over 1,400 people. Actually showed the Disney movie Cinderella back in the early 1950s. Now it did change hands a few times and was eventually shut down by the police. Now bearing in mind, a grade 3 film is an 18 certificate. It was shut down for showing grade 4 films. So what on earth a grade 4 film is, I shudder to think. But it might have something to do with the Kam Ling restaurant, which is in the red light district just around the corner. So let's go. I just really love this area of Hong Kong, very local. Right here we've got the Shek Tong Tsui Municipal Services Building. Inside there you are going to find flower sellers, meat sellers, your fruit and veg. No doubt there will be a cooked food market selling very good Cantonese food to locals. People may be playing mahjong or other dice game or card games in there, drinking beer, having a good time. You find these all over Hong Kong. But on the other side of the road, just where Queen's Road bends round to the left, we find the site of the old gas works. Let's find out more about that. In 1861, William Glenn, a man with no gas industry experience, secured a concession from Governor Sir Hercules Robinson to supply gas to Hong Kong, then population 123,000. The Hong Kong Gas Company was formed in 1862, mostly backed by UK investors, though 500 shares were sold locally. By December 1864, gas lamps lit Queen's Road and Upper Albert Road, 15 miles of pipes with 500 lights. Before this, streets relied on peanut oil lamps paid for by residents. Cane Road locals complained that they were left in the dark, while Kowloon waited 28 more years for gas, stuck with candles and oil. However, on May 14th at 11:05 a.m, a massive 500,000 cubic foot gas tank exploded, sending flames into nearby homes on nearby streets. The fire was under control within 2 hours, but rescuers spent 24 hours searching the rubble. The disaster killed 42 people and injured many more. 5 houses burned completely and 11 others were damaged, but the rest of the gasworks remained unharmed. The work shut down in 1960, but Whitty Street, named after a former manager, still remains and is home to one of Hong Kong's largest tram depots. Okay, we're on the first bend in Queen's Road West here. We can see Hong Kong U Station behind me. This wasn't open until 2014 when the line was extended from Sheung Wan all the way out to Kennedy Town. Now on this bend in the road, we had the Taiping Theatre and the Kam Ling restaurant just down the road. So let's find out all about the history of those two buildings and this area, which was the red light district many years ago. Shek Tong Tsui has always been a busy area filled with fancy restaurants, nightlife and brothels, which were allowed in Hong Kong until 1932. The most famous ones were nicknamed the Four Kings, and they were known for being very luxurious. The area was also packed with popular restaurants like Kam Ling, where people held big dinners and stayed late. During World War II, when Japan controlled Hong Kong, many brothels moved to Shek Tong Tsui, but after the war, they closed for good. Nowadays, Shek Tong Tsui is a quiet neighbourhood with students, families and lots of small shops. You'll see old folks playing chess, university students grabbing snacks and cosy restaurants, a very different place from its lively past. In 1904, the Taiping Theatre opened as one of Hong Kong's biggest and most exciting entertainment spots. With 3 floors and space for over 1,000 people, it wasn't just a cinema, it hosted circus acts, Cantonese opera shows and even big parties. Famous performers and fans packed the theatre, and even some ladies from nearby establishments came to watch the shows. In 1932, the theatre got a huge upgrade, fitting 2,000 people. During World War II, the Japanese army used it as a storage building. Sadly, in 1981, the legendary theatre was torn down and replaced by a plain office building, just 6 years before the famous Chinese movie Rouge was filmed. Today, there's no trace of its glamorous past, but its story lives on. Up, a little bit of a steep incline here. Got a ubiquitous banyan tree here, just up from the Taiping Theatre. And on this rocky outcrop here was the first battery in Hong Kong. It was known as Elliott's Battery or West Point Battery, and sort of guarded the West Point here in Hong Kong. Now, there were Indian sepoys positioned here, along with a few European troops. But this area in 1843 succumbed to malaria and other diseases, and in fact 25% of the population here of Indian troops died in 1843, and 10% of Europeans across the city died. So in 1846 this battery ceased to be used and they moved further eastward. Let's take a walk up here, because just up from Queen's Road West there's a very interesting school with a very interesting history. Let's go. Okay, so on top of the hill here, where the battery used to be, is St. Louis School. Now this used to be a reformatory. Now what's a reformatory? Well, This was like a reform school, a penal institution primarily for teenagers. It was often used and operated by Catholic churches around the world. These institutions were designed to be rehabilitative rather than punitive, with a focus on education, training and social reform. They aim to address issues such as destitution, neglect, criminal behaviour in young people, which was prevalent in the 19th century here in China. Now, the reformatory school and orphanage situated here at West Point, that was started by Father Raimondi of the Italian mission in 1864 and provided education in the native Cantonese language for Chinese boys from the age of 8 years old. It also took in and cared for the deaf, the dumb and blind as they were known in the day, and in cases of reformatory treatment for boys with behavioural problems, it also founded training for them and helped them in learning of useful trades. Some of these trades were shoemaking, carpentry, tailoring, bookbinding. So this was actually the first kind of technical education here in Hong Kong. And from the late 1800s, it's actually given a $1,000 grant from the Hong Kong government. Now, the St. Louis School. So this is the junction where Queen's Road West meets Water Street. Quite a steep street going up, and that's because there used to be a water nullah here, bringing fresh water down from the hill, and at the bottom, ships would moor up at the dock and fill up with water. And just around the corner, about 50 metres away, is one of my favourite cocktail bars. It's a secret underground bar, somewhat of a speakeasy, could you say, called Ping Pong 129, maybe. We might get a gin there later if we're lucky. Right, let's keep going. Okay, so we're at the junction here of three roads. We've got Queen's Road West, which we've just walked down. We've got Pok Fu Lam Road, and we've got Sai Ying Pun Western Street. Now, Pok Fu Lam Road predates the British arriving in 1841. This was a track that would have come up the hill and around the west side of Hong Kong Island for local people to have used for hundreds of years. Behind me we see the old Western Magistrates Court now. That was built in 1965, but before that was Police Station number 7. Police Station number 7 then moved to one street down to DeVoe Road and Queen's Road West, where it is still now the Western Police headquarters. But on that site many years ago in the mid-19th century was the old Sailors' Home, and next to it St. Peter's Anglican Church, one of the first churches here in Hong Kong, and that would have been for the use of all seamen, Hong Kong being a big port right from 1840s onwards. They then were sold in the early 20th century and moved to the eastern part of Hong Kong. Now, lots of industries around here. We're now in Sai Ying Pun, so let's take a look at a few local industries that are still here today.
Before chiropractors, Hong Kong had bone setters, and in Sai Ying Pun, Mr. Chu is legendary. Trained by a Shaolin master, his healing hands even earned him the South China Football Club team doctor position. His clinic's grown from a tiny space to its current size, but those classic green mosaic tiles and wooden furniture remain. For real traditional healing, get yourself to 367 Queen's Road West. And just around the corner is another old industry where craftsmen weave tradition into every strand of bamboo. Mr. Lee at Tuk Chong Sum Ki Bamboo Steamers, keepers of a fading art, shape breathable, fragrant vessels that have cradled dim sum for generations. No factories, no machines, just skilled hands splitting, bending and binding bamboo into perfect steam permeable baskets. Each one tells a story of family recipes, bustling tea houses and the unmistakable scent of freshly steamed hargao, craft steamed in time before it vanishes like the morning mist.
Classic Hong Kong sign here. We've got the bamboo scaffolders putting away their scaffold, and we've got lots of plastic ties used to tie the bamboo together here. You can still see it all around Hong Kong, although it's just been announced, I think, that they are going to end bamboo scaffolding here in Hong Kong. So you do want to see it up. Make sure you get to Hong Kong in the next year or so. Okay, this really is the heart of Sai Ying Pun here. And this is Centre Street, one of my favourite streets. My old stomping ground. I used to live just at the top now. Centre Street, aptly named. We have Western Street, we have Eastern Street and Centre Street. And then going up this steep hill, we have Belchure Street, 2nd Street, 3rd Street, but not 4th Street, because 4 is an unlucky number in Chinese. So they were going to call it 4th Street, but changed it to High Street. Now, in British, in English, High Street, lots of high streets all around England and the UK, and that's because high is an old English word for important. But this one, I think they just changed it because they didn't want to have 4th Street. Right, let's continue walking along Queen's Road West. These are the local streets, Queen's Road West here in Sai Ying Pun. Now, owing to the Taiping Rebellion, which began in 1850, created unsettled conditions in China for almost 15 years, thousands of refugees rushed to Hong Kong. In 1861, 116,000 Chinese were registered here, a 6-fold increase over the 1848 figure of 21,000. The entry of Chinese into Hong Kong in such a large number was unforeseen, and naturally little housing provision was made for it. Demand for houses and rooms in Hong Kong vastly exceeded their supply, and every space was once filled. It was here in the 1880s that Sai Ying Pun became seriously overcrowded. Unoccupied houses were being taken up rapidly by people, tenement houses were being built, and people were being crammed in. This led to maybe 25, 30 people living in small rooms altogether. In the 1890s, the plague broke out, and that caused a big problem for the people here. In fact, they were seen jumping on any sort of boats, junks, steamers just to get out of Sai Ying Pun. Hence why, around that time, a hospital had to be built, and it's right behind us on this very strange granite structure. Let's have a look at it. Okay, so here we are, this unusual granite incline here. This was an incline up to a building called Edgar's Bungalow back in 1843. But then in 1859, the land was acquired by the government and it was turned into the civil hospital. There's lots of hospitals all around this area. In fact, Hospital Road is one street up. A lot of venereal diseases in this area back in the day, so the Lock Hospital was used to treat venereal disease. Now, underneath the bridge, or what is called Bird Bridge, we can see some ventilation staff. So that's because in 1911, underneath the bridge was turned into some public toilets. Public toilets very big here in Hong Kong. Even to this day, most people did not have toilets in their own buildings, in their own rooms, so had to use public facilities. In fact, a very famous one on 2nd Street, the public house and bathhouse is just about to be pulled down, and the oldest bathhouse here in Hong Kong in this area. So let's keep moving on. We are nearly at the end of Queen's Road West. Another one of the industries here, located at 112 Queen's Road West, was the Samly Churn Jacket Company. In jackets and shirts, and if you had a Macintosh coat back in the 1950s and 60s, probably it came from here, right on Queen's Road West. And just around the corner, I bet your grandfathers had a dinky toy growing up, either a bus or a car. Well, dinky toys were actually made here on Queen's Road West, as well as other places here in Hong Kong as well. Right, just round the corner is our very end point of Queens Road West. Let's go. Here we are, 117 Queens Road West. Now, this used to be the site of the Koxing Theatre. This was built in 1878. Now, unfortunately, very much a 1960s, 1970s building. Now, this was visited by Prince Arthur of Connaught back in 1906. He was Queen Victoria's 7th son, I believe, and he visited here and he was put on a wonderful show by the Chinese community. According to the news reports at the time, the entertainment given by the community took the form of a tea party and theatrical representation of the Koxing Theatre itself. It later became one of the first to show moving film here in Hong Kong. The American Cinematographic Company showed films from 1909 onwards. However, just after World War II, there were some bombings inside the theatre, which was a bit of a spillover from the Chinese Civil War, refugee pressures, anti-colonial resistance. There were quite a few bombings around the city, and there was one here where I think 24 people were injured and 1 person died. So one of many old theatres here in Hong Kong, sadly no longer here. So here it is, the end of Queens Road West, where it meets Queens Road Central. Right opposite, we have number 1 Queens Road West, which is one of my favourite buildings. It's an old Tong Lau, a shop at the bottom and then housing above. Now, this is very important because this is where it meets Possession Street. And up this street, we're going to walk up to Hollywood Road to finish the video because it's a poignant place that was the reason why Hong Kong changed from a very small fishing outback place of southern China into the sprawling metropolis we see today. So let's head up to Hollywood Road. So this building here, 242 to 244 Hollywood Road, just up from Queens Road West. This was built by the Royal Engineers in 1844. Obviously not an original building. The Royal Engineers didn't build these lovely modern balconies, but there's a nice plaque above the door to show that they were here back in 1844. Right, let's head into the park for the final bit. So here it is, Hollywood Road Park, also known as Possession Point. This was the spot on the 26th of January 1841 that the British put the flag down after forcibly taking Hong Kong following the Battle of Chun Pi. History is all around you, folks. I hope you've enjoyed this trip along Queens Road West. At some point we will continue along Queens Road Central and Queens Road East. But that's it for now. If you found that I've missed anything on the road, do let me know in the comments below. But for now, we'll see you next time.